Hi guys, welcome back to Underwater Astrology, giving you guys the Astrology report. Why it's so important to know about the houses. What do they govern, right? This is a video I've been meaning to do for a while. Mars in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo is such a perfect place to organize for Mars in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo is such a perfect place to organize everything for astrology and go into a much healthier state of mind. So I want to give you guys the 12 houses, right? So the first house governs personality, needing to be seen, heard, felt, and understood. I think the first house is so important by the time your natal chart has reached this point. So for example, some of you coming in with a natal chart with first house, I feel in my Western astrology awareness that you in a past life accomplished something in your 12th house. So you've mastered 12th house, so now you're in the first house. So you know how to manifest through your appearance, and once you know how you come across, that's how you master the manifestation of what you want. I love first house people and natives, people with a lot of first house prominent placements, because these people will make themselves be seen. They have a powerful appearance that is unignorable. The first house rules the self. The first house is ruled by Aries. The animal is the ram. The house is governed by Aries energy, but it's also important to say a house is not a sign, but it's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with the first house energy would put in their room. Lots of mirrors, reminders of who they are, where they come from, their identity, how they are shown in the public eye really matters with these placements. Okay, guys, let's move on to the second house. So, the second house governs self-worth, what you own, and self-esteem. How do we value ourselves? Kindness. So, let's move on to the second house. So, for the second house, it's very different from the first house. So, the second house is all about self-worth, right? What do we own? What do you own? Second house person, prominent placement would be like, their common thought pattern is, what do I own? How is my self-esteem governed in the situation? And how is my self-worth governed, right? So a second house person, how they think is very much like, how do I value myself, right? What do I own? And how do I empower my self-esteem? And it's super important to be like, how do I value myself? Through kindness and availability, right? That's just a good affirmation to use. What do I own? I own my body, spirit, and mind. Is that an easy thing to adjust to? Being like, I don't own much, but I own my spirit, my soul, and my mind is a good way of getting out of super consumerism for some of you heavy second house placements. And how do I empower my self-esteem? Well, through affirmations rather than the price tag. You know what I mean? The second house rules values. The second house rules what we own and value in ourselves and others. The second house is in fact ruled by Taurus. The animal is the bull. The house is governed by Taurus energy, but it's also important to say a house is not a sign. It's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with a second house energy would put in their room. Lots of items, Venetian elements, because this is what Taurus is ruled by. Maybe some flowers, maybe some affirmations or reminders of things that they have accomplished to keep their head steady. Let's move forward to the third house. So the third house is how we communicate with people, how we take short distance travels, our psyche, right? For those of you, some of you, it's so important to know that the third house rules communication, short distance travel, and the psyche. The third house is ruled by Gemini. The symbol for Gemini is the twins. The house is governed by Gemini energy, but it's also important to say a house is not a sign, it's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine with someone with a third house, prominent third house placements would put in their room. Lots of items that have a mercurial element, right? Because Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So maybe letters, old letters, future letters to self, communication devices, computers, phones, watches, thank you notes from people, anything that reminded them of movement. You know, I can imagine geometric systems that had an essence of movement. Things to basically keep their mind busy. So let's move forward into the fourth house. The fourth house is all about where we come from, our family, and in parentheses, that could be your soul tribe, and how we use our higher intuition. So the fourth house generally rules like where you come from, but for those of you who do not want to connect with that aspect of yourself, I definitely say, out of necessity, I say soul tribe, because a lot of you have starseed origins, and that's even cooler. And it also governs our higher intuition. The fourth house rules home, emotions, and higher intuition. The fourth house is ruled by Cancer. The symbol that rules Cancer is the crab. The fourth house is governed by Cancer energy. But it's also important to say a house is not a sign. It's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with fourth house energy would put in their room. Someone with a lot of fourth house placements. Lots of items ruling family, things that reminded them of their soul tribe, similar values, emotions that reflected their state of mind, maybe some animals, things that reminded them of home, anything that reminded them of what home was. For some, it could be photos of their soul tribe or even family photos, things to keep them grounded in their soul tribe. Let's move forward to the fifth house. The fifth house rules love, creativity, and the inner child. The fifth house is ruled by Leo, by the sign Leo. The fifth house is... So the symbol that rules Leo is the lion. The fifth house is governed by Leo energy. But it's also important to say a house is not a sign. It's just an energy of understanding. Right? So like a physical house, imagine what someone with a lot of fifth house prominent placements would put in their room. Lots of inner child energy here, lots of creative elements, bold elements, bright colors, things that reminded them of children, things that reminded them of their partner if they had one, things that reminded them of self-love, etc. Things to keep them grounded in the element of somewhat of a fun or at least creative energy. Moving forward, the sixth house. The sixth house. The sixth house rules routine, work, and health. The sixth house is ruled by the sign Virgo. The symbol for Virgo is the maiden. The sixth house is governed by Virgo energy, but it's also important to say a house is not a sign. It's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with sixth house energy would put in a lot of sixth house prominent placements would put in their room. Lots of post-it notes, journals, organizational systems at place, healthy food and a good environment. Things that reminded them of routine and organization. The seventh house. The seventh house rules partnerships. The seventh house is ruled by Libra. The symbol for the sign Libra is the Libra scales. The seventh house is governed by Libra energy, but it's important to say a house is not the The symbol for Libra is the Libra scales. The 7th house is governed by Libra energy, but it's also important to say a house placement is not a sign placement. It's just the energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with prominent 7th house energy or placements would put in their room. So I just want to say prominent 7th house placements. And I would say lots of relationship reminders. Like the reminders to hang out with people, walk their dog, photos of friends, their music, maybe where they work. Lots of business cards of people to talk with. Lots of energy around gathering information to use it at a later date with someone to start a partnership. Let's move forward. The 8th house, right? So the 8th house rules the merging of energies with someone else, the unseen, money and transformation, and sometimes an ego death. The 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. The symbol for Scorpio is a scorpion. The 8th house is governed by Scorpion energy, but it's also important to say a house placement is not a sign placement. It's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with prominent 8th house placements would put in their room. Maybe they would have lots of elements of spirituality, spiritual health, really cool crystals, or even sage, Palo Santo, spiritual objects that reminded them of positive symbolism for protection. We have to move forward. Hey guys, let's go into the 9th house. Let's be real, okay? I want to be real. The 9th house rules the belief systems. The 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius. The symbol for Sagittarius is the bow and arrow. The 9th house is governed by Sagittarius energy, but it's also important to say a house placement is not a sign placement. It's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with a lot of 9th house placements would put in their room. Maybe they would have lots of things of multiple religions or just their one religion. Different philosophers, different writings from different countries. Items from all over the world, or maybe just from their home country that they have cultural relevance to. Moving forward, the 10th house. The 10th house rules the career and the father figure. The 10th house is ruled by Capricorn. The symbol for Capricorn is the goat. The 10th house is governed by Capricorn energy, but it's also important to say a house placement is not a sign placement. It's just an energy of understanding. Like a physical house, imagine what someone with a lot of 10th house placements would put in their room. Maybe they would have lots of things that reminded them of their career or a fatherly figure or fatherly representative, or where they wanted to be in their career. Their purpose is very important to them with this placement. So things that motivated them to go higher in their career would really be valued by 10th house prominent placements. 11th house rules social circles, dreams, and aspirations. The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. The symbol for Aquarius is the water bear. The 11th house is governed by Aquarius energy, but it's also important to say a house placement is not a sign placement. It's just an energy of understanding. Furthermore, like a physical house, imagine what someone with a lot of 11th house placements would put in their room. Maybe they would have a lot of things that reminded them of their friends. I see a lot of friends' photos around heavy 11th house placements, or more importantly, needing to talk to a friend once in a while. I also see with this placement that they have high, deep understanding for groups or people. I see their rooms being filled with latest technology, groups of items, collectible items, old cameras, and even new cameras, mix of the past and the present to give them the most whimsical attitude with new groups of people. The 12th house. The 12th house rules the subconscious mind and higher love. The 12th house is ruled by Pisces. The symbol for Pisces is the two fish. The 12th house is governed by Piscean energy, but it's also important to say a house placement is not a sign placement. It's just an energy of understanding. Furthermore, like a physical house, imagine what someone with a lot of 12th house placements would put in their room. Maybe they would have lots of things that reminded them of their need for space with other people. I see patterns of different things that go together really well. Good intuition for decor around the house, plants, and animals. Furthermore, some of the most compassionate people have prominent 12th house placements. So I see someone who needs to rest a little bit, a comfy resting area, and then going off of that. That's what I see for a 12th house room. Thank you so much for watching this series. I hope to do more series of informative astrology, teaching you guys astrology, knowing how, so you guys can know how to read your own birth chart and have your own connection to your own physical space, intimacy with your own birth chart, revealing information that maybe other astrologers wouldn't. Thank you so much for participating in the underwater astrology video. Keep watching the videos, keep liking them, keep subscribing. Much love.